Hi guys, and welcome to Angling For You. Today you join me at a lovely Oaks Lake. We're fishing a little bit of shallow today, and it's only late April. We've had a little bit of warm weather and we're starting to get those fish up in the water. This is the first one of the day. Nice F1. Hooked beautifully in the top lip. There we go, lovely little fish to start the session. Let's get him back and keep that feeding going. So, when you're fishing, when you're shallow fishing, it's really important to keep the feed going in. It's a little bit different to fishing in the summer in regards to feeding pattern. You don't want to be feeding too much, just little and often. Just get this hook bait on. So we're fishing 4 mils, we're fishing a little inline dibber float today, a little crystal one. I do really like this one for shallow fishing. When we're jigger fishing, I use the Pro Gym ones, which are fantastic, but I just really like this little crystal dibber when I'm doing what they call a fixed rig. So it's where you decide on a depth and you fish to that depth. So we're fishing around a foot. It's we've got a little bit of a interesting place where we're fishing. It is a bit precarious in regards to we're right on a feature which could potentially get you into a little bit of trouble, and it's really important that you just pay attention, because as soon as you hook these fish you do need to get them out of the peg. They will go straight under there, and we aren't particularly fishing that heavy either, if I'm honest. It's really just quite a light setup. It needs to be positive, so it's 018 main line, but the hook link is only 015, and we've still only got a size 18's hook, and it's actually one of the MXC ready tied ones from Matrix, and they're just really decent little hook links made out of monofilament, really stiff, 6-inch, so you know that they're all consistent. And just been giving them a go these last few sessions, and they're working great on this little rig. Now with the fixed rigs, you really need to find a fish. You need to be confident that the fish are going to be within that sort of area. So maybe that you set up a couple of rigs. So you have this one as like a really shallow rig, you have one at a sort of 1.5 foot and one at 2 foot, and that just gives you searchable. If you don't want to do that, that's where your jigger comes in and enables you to search the water and the different columns by jigging it up and down. And I've got another video on that if you want to search the playlist. But really it's about using light elastics, it's using light hook links, small hooks and small pellets, and little and often. We're not absolutely hammering it in there, we're just doing little and often, and that's an important situation when you're firing in. Otherwise you can end up with a world of pain if you overfeed them and they'll be too deep, or you feed them out your peg. Just going to bring that in, as I think it's just looped itself over that top. Now some people might be a little bit nervous about fishing to these kind of features, but sometimes that's where the fish want to be. That's where you got to be, and it may be that you have a backup rig, or you have something that can aid you hook links wise if you do catch one, and it does take you under. But we've got quite a short peg behind me, so it's quite a difficult ship back. So what I'm having to do is ship back across the reed before breaking the pole down, and that's purely just the way my peg is, and there's nothing I can do about that. But you've just got to make sure that you set those rollers and get yourself in a position where you can ship that back. Now you've noticed I'm reaching over, and those pellets is just right next to where my hand is. I'm holding the pole with my knee and with the elbow of my left arm, different if you're right-handed, and I'm not pulling the elastic on the catapult with my hand. I'm holding it and keeping it still, and I'm using my other hand to pull the catapult away from it to fire it. And that's just a little bit way of safer doing it. It stops everything clattering about. I'm only feeding small amounts. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to feed a little bit shorter than where I'm fishing. So I want them to come a little bit away from where they are tight into that feature. If I can come out a little bit, it gives me a little bit more room to steer them, but at the moment they're hugging quite tight to it. In fact, one of them I've actually caught before, turning the camera on. I had sort of 3 fish, and they were really like under the pallet virtually, which is not ideal. But sometimes you just got to be that close. So now, like for example, I'm nearly touching the pallet. And sometimes if you're not getting a bite, or you've not got any signs, like we've not just done all those sort of few casts, just leave it like that. Perfect example. Just leave it and stop feeding, and then you're the only thing that's there. So it allows you to then hook the fish and get it out your swim without overfeeding them. All them pellets that are in there, obviously, then you're wanting them to take your hook bait. These little F1 shallow kits are great as well. For a perfect example, they come up nice and close to you, and you can net them nice and easy. Lovely little fish, little chunky little fish. And if you can see there, that's how you should be hooking them, right in that top lip. You can see the pellets just sat proud. Perfect little fish. Let's get them in there and we'll have a little look at this rig. Right guys, so firstly we're starting with map F1 shallow kit in white. Now this is completely up to you. If I've done a video, does it really make a difference? That's completely up to your discretion. I just like a shorter kit for when you're fishing with F1s. I'm not really bothered what colour it is. The elastic is an 8 hollow. It's a map elastic, a dual, and it's, as you can see, quite softly set. Got an 018, and that's really because I want it stiff to flick over. And we've got one of the Drennan dibber floats here, crystal ones, really small. It's probably only an inch in size, so a single rubber overhanging there, and then one number 8 shot just sat underneath it. And then that hook link is an MCM, wait a second, it is an MXC. I'm throwing it all over. MXC4 it is, so it's £4 and it's size 16 hook. I thought it was an 18, it's a 16. And we've got a small little band on there, absolutely perfect. really decent little setup, and you know, just great to get aid consistency. If I was, like I say, fishing set rigs, I would have 3 of the same of these set up. I do like the little dibber floats. Like I said before, a bit wild that cast, that you need to get a little bit of bait just going in, so we're just going to fire a few more in just while we're talking. And that showed you perfectly on that pause that we'd fed a little bit of bait, and then I just stopped feeding, and we had the fish. So that's sometimes how it works. What we'll do, I don't know how much you can see on the camera, but we'll have a little ship out and see a little bit closer to camera how, and see if we can get a little bit of fish in action. So it's a really difficult, precarious peg, this is, with regards to behind you. There's not a lot of space. So what I would recommend, if you can get a closer session to feed them, and you can get them closer to practice, I would practice shorter. It's a lot more difficult to do it at length. Two reasons. One, you're obviously controlling and balancing more pole, and number 2, it's controlling the catapult and the firing, and it takes a little bit of practice. I'm pretty good at it. By the end of summer, I'm usually back to a good standard again. At the moment, I'm still a little bit here and there, more or less in the right place, but sometimes it does stray a little bit, and that's just getting used to firing the catapult again when you've not been using it for a year or so. And if you actually watch the Lockdown Series 1, I have got a little video that's on about how to hold the pole and how to control the catapult and firing it. In fact, what we'll do, we'll just whiz to a clip and we'll show you a little bit of that, and you can see how I go about it in close up. Now, a lot of times when you're feeding, the pole's going to be slightly out of the water. Sometimes it'll be rested in the water, will the float when you feed, but a lot of times you can just lift your bait up and fire it in, and then flick it back over on top of it, or drop it, lower it into it. That's up to you. It depends how you fish. You can keep your pole still if you want and fire it, or you can lift it and then drop it in, depending on how you feel most comfortable. My way is, if you're accurate with you find it more accurate to lift your pole up just to get more stability to feed, and then you can lower it down, then do that if that's the way you feel comfortable. So first things first, this is the main thing that I see a lot of people get wrong. So you've got to have your body side on, so you've got your both knees to rest, you've got your back knee and your elbow and your forearm to control the up and down, and then you've also got that knee there to strike. It's very important, because when you are fishing shallow, you're usually picking maggots or casters or pellets up to catapult out. You have no right hand or striking hand on the pole, so that knee I can lift. Obviously there's a little bit of wind there, but that knee I can lift and strike if I need to. So I can still strike the fish while I'm firing out the bait, which is really important. So the first thing that I see that's wrong, so you can reach, like I said, we can do it from the other side, or you can do it from this side. I'm just going to put a few pellets in. The first thing that I see I think that's wrong is that people get the catapult and they use the left hand for this side that I'm fishing, obviously left-handed, the backhand, which is controlling the pole, to pull it back. Now when you're pulling it back like that, look, you're moving the pole, so you see the pellets, you don't get as accurate, plus your pole's moving all over the place. The way you need to do it is to fill your pellets up, use your left hand to just hold the pouch, don't move it. So I've got the pole where I want it now, and the power I'm gaining is from my other hand, so my other hand is pulling away and firing it right next to the pole tip. So I'll show you that again. And you don't have to put tons of power on. See, that's straight next to where the pole tip would be. So again, we'll show you it again, and we'll change some camera angles around so we can see some close-ups. But I'm keeping this hand still, and I'm moving my other hand, and it's not a lot of power needed to do 7 meters. And again, then I'm straight on top of it, and I can just lower it straight down. Like I say, if you're trying it the other way, where you're putting your pellets you're putting your pellets in, and you're using your other hand to do it, it still can be done, but you tend to be, as you can see, moving your pole out of direction because you're moving that back arm, so the pole's moving away. And it's not end of the world, you can move it back, but you're dragging your pole all over. Whereas when you're fishing and you're holding it, that arm's staying still, and it's in your other arm, so you can see it feeds straight away, and you can keep your catapult in your hand. Some people keep it in the mouth, some people rest it on the knee like so, some people drop it back in the box. That's completely how you want to do it. Personally, if I'm feeding shallow and it's sort of thick and fast, I put my finger over it, and just so I'm not scraping it on a pole, and I use it, and then I'll flick over a few times. If I've not got a bite, then I can quickly get there, and I can pull my hand out, feed again, flick over a few times, and again, same concept, float still in the water, I'm back up again, feed again, flick over, and it's that simple once you get into that rhythm. Right guys, so now that you've seen it up close, it's a good idea, like you've just seen, is to potentially try it in the garden yourself, and you know, it can aid good results. And you see there, we've just left it just in the midst of feeding, and that took it as I was just left it for a couple of seconds, and that's what I mean about that. That's where the bites can sometimes come, when you sometimes they'll take it straight away, and sometimes you've got to let it settle a couple of seconds. And this is, you can see with that light elastic, it enables me to pull a little bit harder to control the fish, and that's what you need when you're catching F1's fast. A durable elastic that stretches well, but that still powers up. You never worry about it, how hard it pulls. Just take your time, keep your top kit low. You'll feel when it comes in close, and then that's when you can scoop it up. There he goes, and he's in the net. It's just a little bit about practice. That's a bit bigger fish, and he's perfectly hooked again in that top lip, just where you want it. A little bit bigger than the last one. That's the kind of stamp you want to get for some weight builders. Let's get back out there and see if we can have some more. So once I've fed, I usually give it a couple of flicks over before I put my next set in. And like I was saying to you before, it's still in autumn, so the water is still cold. It's not as if you're in summer where they're in full feed mode. You know, I've seen some spawning marks on. You're going to be thinking about that soon as well. So just make sure you don't overfeed, and you could potentially, if you feed too heavy or use too big a pellet, what can happen is you can put those fish deeper in the water, and if they're going to accept shallow, you want to keep them shallow because that's a quicker way of catching them. quick one. You will still, even though we're getting carp and F1s, you will get those smaller little roach and things like that trying to poke the nose in. Hopefully we maintain the F1s and the carp and not the little ones. And a little misconception about shallow fishing that you need to be aware of is that you don't always, like there, perfect example, you don't always get the elastic coming out. You have to strike. Sometimes when it's they're not having it as much as like a summer bagging session, you do have to strike them, and you don't always just wait for the elastic. If you see that float go under, you strike it regardless. This one looks like a carp actually. Feels a little bit better. No, I'm not sure actually. Oh yeah, that's F1. Nice F1. Oh, nearly. Still got plenty of beans in him. That's a nice F1. It's a better fish as that one. So beautiful F1 is that. Hopefully calm him down for 2 seconds and we can hold him up for camera, because he's in perfect condition as well. Beautiful fish. Easy tiger, easy tiger. Still full of beans. Move that out of the way. Now the camera's a little bit far away, but I'll try and hold him up. But he's not having it. He's in a way. A little bit of a comedy factor for everybody. But yeah, that was a nice F1. The thing is with F1s, they're just like you've just seen, just so giddy, and you know they like to mess about when you get them in the net. Luckily we've got a nice soft pad in front of us, so we're not in any harm. That's why I always hold them over the net, so if they do jump, you know, then if they jump to the side they're going to be in the net, and if they jump forward they're back in the water. So put everything together like that, and then we just need to put a little bit of feed in. So like what I was saying before is, don't always expect to get the bite and it tear out your elastic, and it might do, but if there's a little dip on the float, you're always going to flick your float over when you're fishing shallow, so you might as well lift up into it. These little pellets, if they even touch these little pellets with the hook to suck them, they usually suck those that small hook straight in the mouth, and they're usually on 9 times out of 10. So like before, don't feed. Once you've fed a few little pouches of small, there you go, that's why you don't feed. Straight away into the fish. You see it coming nice and quick. He's trying to get under that pellet. That's why we got that soft elastic, so we can ship back straight away. I've got control of the fish, no problems, no worries. He's right up, he's up in the top of the mouth, and he's in the net. No dramas. You've just got to be on your ball and quick. See, as a prime example there, that came off in the net. Look like this one's gonna let us hold on to him either. Nice little lively F1. Let's get him back in and get back out. So same again, guys. So we're gonna put a few pellets in just before we go back on it. Always good practice to get a couple of pouches out there. What I say is, if you do 3 or 4 pouches of less pellets, at least if you get if you put them all in together and you get the pouch wrong, then you've wasted all your feed in the wrong place. If you do it in a few little pinches, you get a nice little rein in there with not too much feed, and it don't overfeed your peg in the wrong place. And they're still coming near to that pallet. And this, with this little green elastic on, it's lovely soft elastic, and you know, it just powers up so nice, but is not overbearing. Just perfectly what you want for an elastic for shallow fishing. You know, you just can let your fish swim out your peg, and then it allows you to get it under control. Really on the feed now. That was a lovely little bite. You see how that elastic just gets them under control, and we can take that one single section off. We can strip them down and get them fully under control. It's a little baby one this time. There we go. There's it, the net. You can imagine once you get these in a little bit of a feeding frenzy, even more so when it gets to the summer months, then it can be absolutely devastating. And a lot of venue records and venue top match weights are done using shallow fishing, you know, with various things, maggots, casters, and also pellets. What we're going to do, we're going to go back out there, see if we can have one to finish the video, and hopefully they keep coming. So I'm not going to feed straight away because I've got ducks to my right, and I want them all to disappear before I start feeding. I don't want them to be hanging around my peg waiting for pellets. Unfortunately, there's little ducklings, and they're absolutely dumb as it gets, and they'll just impulsively go towards my peg and towards all of the feeding, and I don't need that, so we're not going to do that. So once they've gone, we'll feed to get Mum to round them up. And you know, they've been on it a couple. There you go. He went straight for that pole. That was a clonking bite. See what I mean by you've got to be quick on them. They want to go straight under the platform and straight around those poles. So luckily it's suspended. It's suspended by those two poles, so it's not that it's got a rope attached to it like some do. He really wanted that one. Again, toplip.com. Perfectly hooked. Just a little bit further into the top lip. Like this one, being a bit giddy, stay still. Just a little bit underneath this one. There you go. Another little fat chubby F1 to finish it. So guys, I'm gonna continue to fish away, and I feel that, you know, they're gonna be there for a little while longer. But thank you very much for joining me. It's a fantastic venue, is Oaks Lakes, and on its day it's as good as any other venue. I'll be honest though, through this morning it has been a very difficult morning. It's been quite slow, and I've just really started to get them going. So sometimes when it's this time of year, it is not always the best to come out first thing on a morning. It's better to sometimes head to venues at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and try your luck, you know, for the evening session. But you know, we've had a good session anyway. We've got some nice footage, and yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you want to join us on the Facebook group, 6,000 members we've just gone to now, so going strong. Lots of advice, lots of live feeds and interaction. It's family owned and run group that we make sure there's no banter and things like that. It's all good stuff on there. And again, if you want to join us on Instagram on angling_for_you, there's lots of people sharing photos, and you can see what we're up to. And if you want to see anything else, just have a look at our playlists. They've got all different types of tackle reviews, bait reviews, and all sorts of other things on there. So until the next one, guys, thank you very much for watching. Tight lines.